Howdy, y'all. So I'm jumping in to start assessing, giving feedback on all the week 2 work. Here we are at the beginning of week 3, and I want to share two things. First is a little bit of a debrief from week 2 as we start now week 3, and then the third is I'm going to end with pulling in a video of a real life story, something that happened a term or two ago, but I think it's really worth sharing again as we move into week 3. So, first, week 2, the ethics wiki work. I hinted at this in the announcement email that went out Saturday morning with the archives about, guys, recognize the potential vortex here in don't cross your streams, right? With working on crafting a statement, two small paragraphs, about your perspective, your understanding at this point on the issue, the conceptual component of ethics in education as it relates to curriculum design more specifically, but in general, and that being group work. And the double-edged sword of doing this in a collaborative environment when you know what, every group is different. Some groups, some terms, everybody has jumped in and everybody's done by Wednesday, and they're like, oh, you can pop in and grade ours now. And some terms, I have people who at 11:58 p.m. on Sunday night are texting me going, I'm still waiting for so-and-so to jump in. I'm still waiting for my partners to jump in. So let's take a step back and third person this experience. How ironic that this is living an ethical issue. Is it ethical to put in collaborative work in an online environment without having a specific scaffold? You must log in and do your first work by Tuesday. You must log in and do your second work by Friday. You must log in and do... I didn't do that. I purposefully didn't do that. And I tell you again, every term I modify the curriculum based on what I've experienced and the feedback I've gotten from other students. Okay? Curriculum is always in process. There's no such thing as done. There's done for the moment. There is never done, exclamation point. So in the past, actually, there have been a couple times where I've done those kinds of specific, first must be by Tuesday, second must be by Thursday, third must be by Sunday. And a lot of people hated it, like exclamation point, capital H. You're too directive. I can't, doesn't work. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I purposefully didn't do that. If you look at the instructions, it was very clear that you had to be in 3 different times, but I didn't delineate what those 3 times were. So the grade itself, the experience was broken into 2 halves, right? Half of it was the final product, the actual artifact, and half of it was your engagement in the process. So there was balance there. Now, let's look at this from an ethical perspective. Is it ethical to expect you guys to work on something asynchronously without putting those kinds of distinct, scaffolded, this date, this date, this date benchmarks in there? Well, that's individual. That's something for every single person to have to figure out. I want to point out specifically, why was this in week 2? Number 1, so that you'd have this experience and we'd have this very opportunity to have this reflection looking back. How did it go for you? Every group is different. Every student is different. Like I said, sometimes I have students, everybody's done by the first week, and it's as smooth as silk and a piece of cake. Sometimes I have people who have such divergent understandings, paradigms, visions, that they just can't seem to find a way to come to any consensus. So it's always different. That's okay. This was not a demonstration of mastery. This was an exploratory first step into thinking about this way. And why collaborative instead of independent, which I give you, would have been easier. I'm right there with you. 2 reasons. 2 very specific reasons. One is because it's introductory and exploratory, it was so important from a curricular perspective that you not start in a vacuum. Ethics is one of those weird things. It's hard to have that discussion out in the open right off the bat because everybody, it's personal, right? It's like talking about money, it's like talking about politics, like talking about religion. It can get very uncomfortable, especially when you haven't had time to really come together as a group and you know that people aren't going to be judgmental or you understand people's voices. So if somebody says something and there's actually humor behind it, you don't misunderstand it, take it personally. We're not there yet. We'll get there. You can tell I openly try and role model being open and being able to take things, listen to what's really being said, but always with a grain of salt. You don't take it too personally. It's not ever a personal attack about you. We're talking about the work. We're talking about the experiences. Okay, so I openly and transparently try and role model that. We're not there yet as a group. Hopefully, another 2-3 weeks, we will truly be there. Your choice books, the important component of you going in and watching or reading whatever the artifact is of peers who did the 2 other books, that's important. That, along with opening your eyes to other people's thoughts and feelings, is an additional affective engagement point to build more openness, collaborativeness, consensus, that ability to lighten our shackles, lighten our social walls that we tend to build up, and be able to be more genuine with each other and with ourselves. Be less guarded. So all of that is purposeful. So I'm telling you right now, take that moment, think about your experience, look at it from the lens of, well, okay, this was exploratory. How did it feel? And how did I perform? How were my behaviors? How were my choices empowering or disempowering for my peers and myself? There was a lot here. It was very multi-layered. I give you that. And for those of you who felt uncomfortable, I don't know how to do this, you know what? That's okay. And I just got a text message. That's okay. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's okay. That means you're trying something different. You're trying something new. If everything is, oh yes, this is so easy and this is so comfortable and now I'm just adding a little bit on top, you're not really stretching yourself. You've got to be open to discomfort. Not pain, but discomfort. I think I told you guys in my intro video, I do so many of these, about the instructor who used to have the students come in, clasp hands, and then look at your thumbs. Which thumb is on top? Now, purposefully, open them up, clasp them again, put the other thumb on top. Look at your hands. Feels kind of weird, doesn't it? Not painful, just weird. Because you're doing something a little different. And that's okay. A little weird, a little different. That's going to open stuff up. Same for our students. A little weird, a little cognitive dissonance, a little trying the other thumb, writing with the right hand instead of the left, or vice versa. Just to shake it up. Okay? And no, there will not be any Taylor Swift music in this class. Okay? I can promise you that one. So that's one. Now we're going to switch over and I'm going to pull in that other video. Okay? Oh, let me throw in one more thing. When you're asked to do something asynchronously or online, you're like, look, I teach in a classroom. This is not, why are you making me do this technology? I even have people, I didn't want to take an online class. I had to. I got stuck with it because of the schedule. Guys, reality. This is the way of the world. Using these tools, you may not use them at the moment, but I want you to recognize that professional development, you see where the standardized testing is moving toward. I know, don't shoot the messenger. Believe me, I have my own feelings. We'll get there. Don't throw things at your screen or me. Okay? Collaborating, whether it's with a teacher in the next county, whether it's taking a webinar for professional development online, whether it's you Skyping with your parents who live in another state or in another country so that your grandchildren actually know they do have an extended family. These tools are the reality of the world today. All right, and I've got several other stories I could tell you, but I want to get to the one that I think relates beautifully to what we're moving into in week 3. So I'm going to zip it, and you'll have all the feedback from week 2 by end of day Wednesday. I promise. Doing the best I can. Got lots to do. Okay, we all do. We all do. All right. So let's be empathetic to our peers. Let's be kind to ourselves. And let's really take advantage of everything this class has to offer us. I said it before, I'll say it again. I don't care about the points. And I'm begging you not to care about the points. They're just a shorthand mean of communication. If you focus on the work, the points will come. And if for some reason there's a disconnect and you blow it, you can redo any and every, as long as you talk to me, but you can't redo the 2 signature assignments. Those are summative. My hands are tied there. Anything else in this class, any of the formative work, anything but the signature assignments, you talk to me. We understand where the disconnect was, what happened, you can redo it. I care about your learning. Okay, let's pull in the other video.
And I want to share a story, something that happened yesterday. It's kind of crazy, but I think it beautifully explains why all of the work that we're doing together is so important. So I can't cook to save my life. We go and eat breakfast every morning at the Coffee Bean down the street. And it's Sunday. I have my New York Times. I just want to sit at the table and be left alone. And we're sitting at the table, and this group of 3 20-something girls comes and sits down. They open their books, and they start quizzing each other on vocabulary, obviously medical stuff, mycosis, this, blah, blah, blah. It's like skin-related stuff. I know at least that much. So they're studying for a while, and they're quizzing each other on vocabulary. Right out of the book, right out of their notes. Vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. And then this guy comes and sits down at the table, and he asks them how they're doing, and they obviously know him, and they're like, everything's fine. And he starts asking them questions, not so much about the vocabulary, but about, but how do you recognize that? What does it mean? What does it really look like? And I start listening a little more to this conversation, thinking they're med students, and he's the TA. Maybe he's even the professor, although he looked a little young to be a professor, because this is what being a professor does to you. So this goes on for a little bit, and then finally it's time to go. And I said, I'm so sorry, I'm going to be incredibly rude. Where do you guys go to school? And the girls giggled and explained, we're not med students, we're assistants in a medical office. And this is our boss, Dr. So-and-so. He's a dermatologist. Really looked good. I got his card. He looked great. So I'm like, okay, this is your boss? You guys are hanging out here on a Sunday? I'm like, what's going on? And he explained that, he really likes his medical assistants, and they all have a certificate of graduating from a program that prepares them to be medical assistants, but all they know is terminology. And he wasn't saying this rude or judgmental. He was just calling it like he sees it. And they were all smiling and nodding as he's saying this. So he says, because he needs his medical assistants to actually be able to work as assistants with him, not just stand in the front and do paperwork, but to have an understanding of what's going on so they can speak shorthand and they can assist him get stuff he needs. He doesn't have to give a long explanation. He takes the time to coach them so that they don't just focus on what's in the book that they've already learned. They've graduated, they have their certificates, but that they're able to see it in action and recognize it and apply it and ask him questions, so that he doesn't miss things, because he's moving quickly and he wants them to be authentically part of his team and work with him. And when these students come out of these programs, they don't know what to do with all that they learn. All they have is vocabulary. And even the girls themselves, knowing this is what he wants from them, their experience has taught them that, he wants us to learn more, so let's work on the vocabulary. And they kept quoting from the book. And he kept saying, I don't care what the book says. Tell me what you think it means. Give me an example of how it looks in real life. And I explained to him, I'm professor of ed, and I was so impressed with his coaching and facilitation. And we laughed a little bit, and we both agreed with the girl standing there, nodding. There was no self-consciousness. They understood that the thing that got them successfully through school was the very thing that's holding them back from being great practitioners in the real world. There was no transfer of understanding. They had knowledge, but no understanding that afforded them the ability to apply, to manipulate, to build upon. It was just vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. So, again, all that we're working on in this class, it's real and it's meaningful and it makes a difference out in the real world for our students to be successful. And by successful, I don't necessarily mean make tons of money, but I mean be able to go out and do the things that they can do, want to do. ZPD goes beyond learning. It goes into life as well. Here's an interesting fact, and then I'll get out of your way. Do you know that studies have shown that when men are looking for a job, and of course we're speaking generalities, but this is a big generality. When men look at a posting for a job, they look at it and go, well, I've never done that, but I could do that. Well, I've never done that, but I could figure that out. Yeah, I could make that work. I've got enough experience, I could do that. Whereas women tend to look at job postings and go, I've never done that, I've never done that, I've never done that. Guess I can't apply for the job. We've got to use our powers as great curriculum designers / guiders, facilitators, teachers of real learning, not stuff, learning, so that our students can push themselves out in the real world, use what they've got as a base, as a springboard to go out and do more and more and more and more, because you want to get quantum physics here. There's no such thing as homeostasis. An organism is either growing and gaining in speed and strength and energy, or it's starting to decay. We don't want our students to be decaying before our very eyes. And I don't want you guys to decay before my very eyes. I know it may feel that way sometimes, but remember, education is a team sport, and we're all working together.